Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea,
And I'm Valentina.
and we're the founders of the Ethical Brand Studio. In a world where marketing is often driven by urgency, manipulation, and short term wins, today we explore what happens when we slow down and center ethics in the way we communicate. We'll talk about how the Ethical Brand Studio approaches marketing differently, building relationships based on empathy, honesty, and long term trust. Okay, Valentina, let's begin with the basics. When you say ethical marketing, what do you mean, and how is it different from traditional marketing?
So, we at the studio have created a different way of doing marketing. I started thinking about trying to understand how to do marketing better. And little by little, I realized there are some strategies that are usually applied that are not ethical. It's basically what makes people cringe about marketing. So, what I did is trying to come out with alternative solutions for those type of tactics and try to do stuff in a way that it's a lot more human, a lot more ethical. And I pair that with a very mindful use of images, and all those things combined is what I call ethical marketing. Because traditional marketing, like you said at the beginning, always uses scarcity, always uses a lot of manipulation. It's hiding stuff so that people don't truly know what they're getting into. Also, like interrupting people's life with messages. And that's all that we avoid. And I think it's a very important thing to do because at the end of the day, the better relationship you can create with your audience, the better your business could grow.
Right, because fear based tactics, urgency, scarcity, they're so normalized in marketing. So then, when you are working on these different tactics and different ways to approach marketing, how do you avoid using this urgency and fear based and scarcity? And what do you use instead of that?
So basically, these type of tactics are usually used to call people attention because what moves us, it's an emotion that we feel that makes us act quickly because of us being human, basically. And take advantage of that doesn't feel ethical and kind because you're basically waking up a sense of anxiety that people already live with, that we're living with anxiety because of 100 things of how our society works. And if marketing is also like putting more anxiety into your body, I feel that that's not cool. There are other emotions that can also make us act and take decisions and that are more kind. It is true that maybe it's not as fast as fear-based marketing or urgency marketing. I said in another podcast, we all know that urgency sells a lot. But will your client be happy after they took your course or they bought your product? Will they be happy with it? Will they also like to promote it to other people, talk about it, or keep buying from you? There's a possibility when you use urgency. Yes, you can bring in more people than other tactics, but maybe those people are not the right people and they can leave bad comments, could also feel like it's not working because they were not the right people for your business because they didn't have even time to think about it. So what we do is we use tactics that spike positive emotions in people. So connection, it's in my opinion, one of the strongest one we can use is also not only getting people to buy or to subscribe to whatever you're offering.
Yeah, we've talked about this before in other episodes that when you build connections, people are actually interested in seeing you succeed. Yes, of course, there's a transaction involved because that's what marketing is for. However, there's a deeper connection there when you connect with people. They're also supporting you because they want to see you win, not just because they need XYZ from you.
Yes. But what you're talking about is the connection we build with our audience, or better, our customers or our supporters, however we want to call them, depending on what we're offering. That's something you build over time and when they use or get involved in your business. But what about if they still don't know me? There's also ways to create connection. What creates that connection between people? Shared values, shared purposes in life, similar ways of thinking about stuff that makes people feel connected. And when we feel connected to something or to someone, we do go forward into trying to feel even more connected and more close to that something. That's one of the like the best switch, in my opinion, like switching from urgency to connection is it's a no-brainer, right? And then there's other things like love and joy. It in traditional marketing, people know that that also works very well. It's like a widely used tactic and spikes like good vibes in people. So we can also use that. We can also use stuff like art and aesthetic images, sounds, something like where the visuals or the words or like the creative part of our advertising or our message, it's very nice and pleasant. That's also something that makes people want to get involved. And if these people don't actually get involved at the end, you still left them with something pleasant and with something kind, and you made their day a tiny bit better instead of a tiny bit worse.
So you're very intentional with the language that you use in your campaign. Can you explain how word choice can either empower someone or hurt them? And also maybe give an example of a campaign you've worked on in the past.
Okay, so words have a lot of energy. Words can make people feel things, they can take them back in time. Words are very powerful. And the first thing, of course, is what we're talking about, not using words that cause fear, don't use words that cause anxiety. And for example, those are like, don't do this, don't pick whatever thing before you read these. The things you don't know that could cause this and that, you know?
Right, because that like immediately makes people like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. Like I'm at fault, I'm at fault, I'm at fault. Instead of maybe just giving information without that feeling, look what you've done.
Exactly. There's specific words that are being used a lot nowadays in marketing that I avoid completely because I don't want to be part of that. And so it's maybe like you need to think about it more. That sometimes can cause people to feel bad about the way the word is used or the way they're talking about them or the way they're talking to them. And those are things that a lot of times we can miss because we are maybe not in our audience head and we might not realize that we are hurting them with the words we're using. But in ethical marketing, it's all about listening, trying to be open to understanding our audience. And it's important for me to also see how they react to stuff and try to ask. Sometimes if I'm not sure if I can use a word or not, a sentence in general or not. So being conscious with the words, it's mostly that.
That made me think of like our first episode where we talk about it's not about it being perfect. It's about learning as you go and making sure that you're listening to your audience, you're listening to your clients, and you're working with the language and the feelings that work for them rather than knowing everything all the time and always being able to be perfect, because that's not possible.
Exactly. And one of the biggest rules of communication is listening. We always think communication is all about talking, but it's a lot more about listening. And that's how we are able to do work that actually works. We're able to do campaigns that actually work because we listen to the people, we try to understand what they need, we try to understand what they resonate with, and then we try to put our message into words that they resonate positively to.
Can you tell us about a campaign that you've worked on?
Yes, an example would be one of the brands that I worked last year with. It was a zero waste cosmetic brand. And I remember when the founder showed me like all the names of the creams she was going to sell, there was an anti-aging face cream. And I thought, why do we have to say, like, it's inherent in anti-age that aging is bad. We want to avoid aging, but we don't need to avoid aging. Actually, a cream cannot avoid you to age because it's a natural process.
Impossible.
So we changed it to rejuvenating because what the cream does is give to your cells all these nutrients that helps it be more bright, more elastic, and gain back some of the qualities that they had. And so that's a good example of switching from something that is bad that you have to fight against to something that it actually gives you something good.
Like it's a positive meaning versus we don't like that other thing meaning.
Exactly. And in the whole campaign, every time we spoke about why it's important to use creams and use all these natural ingredients, we always talked about nurturing your skin a lot more than talking about the beauty or how it looks. We talked a lot more about giving your skin what it needs to feel good and the nutrients that we're giving to ourselves. First of all, it's the truth. What does it mean that these cream is gonna make you look good? Look radiant, look beautiful. There are so many ways to look beautiful. And what is beauty? It's different for everybody. So we focused on actually talking about what the product did. And we try to put this message into this nurturing prime concept. And by doing that, we connected more with people who think about beauty in that way. We think about buying cream because they want to take care of themselves, and then they resonate about taking care of you and the planet. That was our slogan, taking care of you and the planet, because it was zero waste. So it's so much more aligned with the actual target.
Because it's more about caring and like taking care instead of battling something. Okay, so one of our core principles at the Ethical Brand Studio is building long-term relationships with audiences. Why is that more powerful than chasing quick sales?
So it all depends on if you're honest with your business. If you're trying to scam people, or are you trying to build a strong, powerful, resilient business that actually brings something to the people? If you're in the second option, then you do want to create long-lasting relationship. And those long-lasting relationships are created by actually providing good value to your clients. It's about understanding them. It's about, those long-term connection. And it might be that at the beginning, it's a bit harder because if you use tactics that bring a lot of people, even if they're not the right people, you might sell more. But like we talked before, what's going to happen next after they try your product or they try whatever you're offering? So it might be a bit more slow. And that's why sometimes we talk about slow marketing, but it's going to be a lot more consistent, and it should just grow and grow instead of having a big chunk of leads or a big chunk of clients and then like going smaller and smaller.
Right. I immediately thought about these, like there's two separate courses that I've bought, like online courses that I've bought. And the first one I bought was like $500. And I saw value in it because it was a money coach. And within like a month of doing that course, I only did like the first part of the course and it already basically paid for itself. And this money coach keeps adding, every time she learns something new, she keeps adding to this course and you don't have to pay anything else. Like you have life access to this, right? But then the second course that I bought was so much more money. Like, I don't even want to say the number. It felt like the moment you said that you just want to, you give people this urgency, you could just trick them into buying something. I thought of that course and how I spent so much more money because I felt this sense of urgency. And in the end, that course did not give nearly any value. I learned some things for sure, but did I get back what I paid from doing that course? No. And so that first course that I bought, she's like really building long-term relationships because now I'm a happy customer that will happily give her reviews and like I've recommended her course to many other people.
That's what I was gonna ask. Which one, if I came and you, that it's also so beautiful that you had like this, like you bought two different options for the same problem that you had or like the thing you wanted to work on. And then it's a great example because then you can see the effect of each of them. It could be like a good marketing case study. Because if I come to you and I have a similar need that what you had in that moment, which one would you recommend?
The first one.
Of course. And then let's say both of them come out with a new course or a book or a service.
The first one, absolutely. Yeah. Like she's amazing. I trust her. I like believe what she tells me because I literally never even finished her course, but within the first part of her course, the course had already paid for itself because it gave me enough value for me to change what I was doing to then basically gain back what I had paid for the course. And I remember thinking, she's not charging people enough for this.
I love that sentence, and I've heard that sentence a lot of times before, of like, you're not charging enough. Or people thinking this was like such a good price for what I got. And it's such a good feeling to people. And that's what makes you able to charge more at the end of the day. When you actually feel like people resonating with what you're doing and they are promoting it, sharing with other people, that's how you can start like making more specialized services. You can charge more. And I'm thinking also about two things that are, it takes me back to the first question of this episode. When you asked me what was the differences, right? One huge difference is that in traditional marketing, you put all your focus on sales. You know, like it's always the objective. Of course, you have many KPIs, but of course, those KPIs always have to turn into money, right? And we put a lot more importance into, did they become customers? Did all of what we do make these leads become buyers or not? Because if it's not, if that doesn't happen, then we're doing things wrong. We need to do something else. And in ethical marketing, we do put a lot more importance into those other steps in between, because we understand that having a happy audience, and like an audience that actually supports us and that actually loves us and love the work that we do, even if they don't become buyers, they can be people who either become later buyers, but also recommend you, or also supports you in different ways. You know, that they can help you, like if you need something. A lot of the most loved influencers, when they ask for something to their audience, people react, right? And they're happy to support them. So it's a lot more about building a community and knowing that you have supporters and knowing that there's ways you can like, that support makes your business grow. And don't get me wrong, I know in traditional marketing it's like this, but we don't pay attention to that anymore. Like in all the digital marketing tactics that you see everywhere, or the people who are talking about, you know, like convert, convert, convert. And again, I'm not saying converting is not important, but if you see it as like an effort that is building something, even if you don't see how it affects directly, it's like an energy that pushes this up, and we can't afford to like not see that, you know?
Yeah. We've lost the like humanity behind our businesses, which it's something that you and I have talked about that I'm not sure we've mentioned in any of the podcasts yet, but that we as humans will always have transactions between one another, right? Not the one person can't do everything or find everything that they need in their life, like food, clothing, everything. So you'll always need to buy things from other people or businesses. And what we're just trying to do here is bring back the human aspect of it and not just be so transactional.
Yeah. We are interdependent. We've grown up with all these messages about how we should be independent and how we should do everything on our own, or not even. It's just like this concept of we have to be independent. And it's not. We would not survive a single day if we didn't have other people around that. Like if you go like on a land where there's nothing, do need help to like get the seeds, at least to plant. Like they have to come from somewhere, or someone else did something so that you can get those seeds. It's in the food we eat, it's in the services we use every day, it's in everything we do. We rely on other people doing other things so that we can do our thing. And so part of this ethical marketing concept is also understanding that if you're offering something valuable, there's nothing to be ashamed of in the offering. There's nothing to be like, oh, yes, like I'm pushing people into buying. No, you're just finding the people who actually need your product and you serve them well, and they will want to buy more and more.
So we've been talking about how managing expectations with your audience is important. How does this help build a community that supports your business?
So we talked about how community comes from building long-lasting relationships. And a long-lasting relationship is based on trust. You can get a long-lasting relationship if you trust the other person. You said something, you said it when you were talking about the course, you said, I trust her. And that's a strong feeling. It's hard to trust people. It's hard to trust a brand. So if you're able to gain trust, that is very valuable. But how do you gain trust in any friends or family relationship? Trust is built when you do what you said you would do. When I needed something, you offered and you delivered. That's trust. It's like knowing that I'm not going to be lied to, that they're not going to hide something from me. And that's why transparency is so important. And managing the expectation, it's about transparency. It's about, instead of everybody say, this is the best restaurant in town, this is the best brand. What does that mean? Maybe it's not the best for you. So what good am I doing you, telling you it's the best restaurant?
I laugh because I just can't get the scene out of my head from Elf, where he is walking around New York City and he finds this tiny little like hole in the wall that says world's best cup of coffee in the front. And he walks in and he's like, congratulations. The world's best cup of coffee. And it's just like the worst probably cup of coffee you've ever.
I love all these type of art, stories, storytelling, cartoons, movies, whatever, that make fun of what we do in real life, because it's an amazing way to show you like this doesn't make sense. This is not, and it's a good example.
That's a perfect example of managing expectations, because were they able to deliver the world's best cup of coffee? No.
Like, even imagine how many the best cup of coffee are there in the world. We need to always remember that the way everybody values stuff, it's different. It's very personal to each of them. So to manage those expectations is to understand that each person might have different experiences and perception of what you do and how they value it. A good way to be careful about that is, if you value these, then you're going to love my product. If you don't value these, you're not going to love my product.
It's okay to alienate some people because not everyone is going to be a customer. So it's better to be straightforward from the beginning. If you value this, you'll like this. But if you don't, you are probably not for you.
And I was going to say that's a big trend right now, especially in trainings and workshops, like education. That's a very big trend in eco products right now. And it's because they need success cases. They need people to succeed with their product for them to do good reviews, because now there's a lot of businesses that rely on reviews.
To be clear, info products are like courses or like online, like educational things, or like even in person. What are info products? That's new to me.
Oh, God. Info products could be workshop, trainings, courses, webinars. Usually webinars are a way to get you to buy an info product. It could be a downloadable. It's a product that it's teaching you basically.
Okay. Well, then, yes, I 100% agree with that. I ran boot camps in the past. And when I was in charge of leading the boot camps, I had a very strict onboarding process for new students, because we needed to know that they were ready for the rigorousness of the program and that they were ready to put in the work and that they had the resources to it. For one of the courses, the first boot camp I started, we were able to provide some resources for people. But we also needed them to have the energy and the time and the willingness to put in the effort to actually succeed in the course. And if they couldn't show us that in the beginning, we wouldn't accept them into the course, because exactly what you said, we were a nonprofit. We weren't even charging. We weren't making money, but we needed them to succeed. What we were putting in was our time and our energy. So even with just that, we had a rigorous process of how to get in to the program.
I wish we could transfer that experience and that knowledge that these type of products have to all of other products, and understand that it's better to make sure you talk to the right audience in the right way, and you understand their needs, and you're very clear on who you can serve and who you cannot serve. And that will be a lot better for brands in the long term. It's the essence of everything else we've talked about.
So for our final question, what would you say to someone that's maybe been working in marketing but has been working on the traditional end of marketing and is now interested in transitioning into a more ethical marketing style?
Okay, if we're talking about marketers, people who work in that field, I would say to first make sure that the business they're working for is actually ethical, that wants to be transparent, that wants to do things right. A lot of times, the business wants to do things right. I found a lot of businesses who say, like a business owner who says that they want to do things right, and then they fall short. But if they're honest in wanting to do things right, we are able to manage and teach them and be like, instead of doing this, I can offer you these, or think about what you're doing there. We could do it better this way. Because like I always say, nowadays we think about marketing, like a digital marketing way, but marketing also includes checking the product. The way the product is built and the way the communication around the product is built is part of marketing. So we are able to influence a bit in that product or service that they're offering, but the founder has to have an honest heart. Otherwise, it's very hard and it doesn't really feel honest if it's not honest from the beginning. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is applying everything that we just talked about. Be very mindful with the words you're using. Be very mindful with the tactics they're using. Ask yourself, what's the feeling I'm provoking in these people? Is it good? Is it bad? Doing research about your audience, understanding what hurts them, how they feel about stuff.
And then after you find out what hurts them, not use it again.
Of course.
Right? Like, look, because I feel like traditional marketing does do that research, but then they use that to manipulate people. So do that research and then make sure you don't use that against your potential customers.
Exactly. And to find other ways, be creative. And there's tons of other ways, even approved by traditional marketing. There's tons of tactics out there that you can use. And it's part of wanting to do this right. It's researching what are those other available tactics. And the other one I wanted to say is just the listening part. It's just the asking and listening and restructuring and rewriting, redesigning, whatever is not meant the best way. Being vulnerable, being able to say, sometimes we need to say, I made a mistake. I sent out a message that felt wrong and that was not what I wanted. Let me first say that you're sorry and change it immediately. So it's about trying to be kind, be courageous also, because a lot of it feels counterintuitive. Telling people to not buy your product if they fall into whatever category. It feels like I don't want to make people go away from our services, but you actually do if they're not the right client. And so, yeah, I would say those are the main things to think about.
And at the end of the day, remember that we can't be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to own up to them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Completely agree.
All right. Thank you, Valentina. See you in the next episode.
See you in the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Ethical Brand Podcast. If something we said sparked a thought or shifted your perspective, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on all socials at The Ethical Brand Studio or head to theethicalbrandstudio.com to learn more about how we support conscious brands, artists, and nonprofits. And if you're enjoying the podcast, one of the best ways to support us is by sharing it with a friend or leaving a review on your favorite platform. It helps more people find us and keep these conversations going. Until next time.